6/18/20, 6/18/2024, EDA in session, starting now. Approval of agenda. Everybody look at the agenda and like everything's on there, add anything, change anything, update. Motion to
It
approve.
looks good.
Motion to second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Consent agenda, line item 3, subsection A, approval of minutes of the May 21st, 2024 EDA meeting. Do I have a motion to approve minutes?
I'll make it.
Second.
Motion.
And second?
I'll second.
All approve?
Aye.
All in favor? All in favor, all approve? Yeah. All right. Motion carries.
Motion carried.
Open forum. There's no one in our audience tonight. Is there anybody on Zoom who would want to chime in today?
EDA Chair, we do not have any attendees. No attendees.
No attendance.
No
Moving on,
attendance.
number 4, we're making things happen. Flower pots, EDA update, still looking for 2 people. If you do watch this movie after the fact and you're out there and want to put in some flower pots. Old Town, you have your company name on it. I think everybody on this panel has at least one. So if anybody else would like to add, we got 2 left. Is that right, Zach?
That's correct. 2 left.
Okay, anybody want to add anything to that?
I'll reach out to a couple business owners that I know and see if I can spark some interest in them.
Okay.
Wonderful.
All right, I'm going to kind of mix up 6, 7, and 8. Okay, so let's bracket those as one type of discussion. Let's go to financial updates, budget discussion, request for council. I'm going to jump to 9.
So just for reference in the future, let's just adjust the agenda when we do that so we can make it good with the minutes. But I'm fine with it. Just want to make sure that keep it.
You want? I can still keep going this way.
It's all good.
Do
It's all
not
good.
worry.
We can discuss 9 next time. Let's just make sure we let it known at the beginning of the meeting so the minutes can be corrected.
I just think 6, 7, and 8 are all about.
Yep.
Yeah.
Legal agreements and stuff. Yep.
Because our discussions don't really get quantified; they get generalized.
Sure. Okay. All right. So yeah, I did provide a financial update in the packet to share our finances, where the EDA is at today. As we sit today, we are at $675,000. Total changes. What's happened this year so far? We've earned about $6,000 worth of interest. $400 is from the flower pot sales that we've gotten so far. Again, more of those will come in here shortly. And then operating supplies and professional services. Professional services is the agreement that we had with Hennepin County related to Elevate Hennepin that we did a 2-year agreement on. So that was approved last year, and so that's the 2nd year of that. And $428.80 is purchasing items for the flower pots. So, that is from just some overall dollars of that. But there's still more coming in, but $428.80 is what we have today. That's the activity I have for financial update. Second half of the discussion is requests that we want to make for council for items related to 25's budget, if we have any. So that's the main discussion. If you have any questions on finances, let me know. You just stand for any questions, but otherwise, looking for budget items basically. So I'll stand down and get back.
I would think the broker and the legal services we would need to put some kind of thought around budget for those too.
I would agree.
And maybe, I don't know if there's any, do we need to budget for any purchases or land or anything like that?
We probably will, but right now we don't have a budget because we have to prepare a budget for council to approve or deny.
Yeah, and I thought he was.
That's what we're asking for
That's what
today.
he's asking for.
Correct. Budget request for 25.
I mean, maybe we need a session to do that, but I was just throwing out a few items that I thought we probably would need to develop a
Do
budget.
you have a general number you'd like to use by chance for broker and legal?
I don't, but I mean, based on the rates and stuff, and if we're gonna use them, we could develop a number, I think. I mean, an
I don't even know what that
estimate.
number is.
Huh?
We have no idea what we're gonna be budgeting yet.
Yeah, you're going by time.
Well, I know, but I mean, most companies have, unless you're established and you're basing your budget off the previous year, if you're doing
Yep.
something new, you gotta put an estimate in on what you think you might use. I mean, you're not held to it, it's just an estimate of what your budget is. Either
It's
you
correct.
go over budget, you go under budget.
Right. It's not zero, so we
Right.
need something there.
I'm just saying, I think those two things, we probably need to just, at some point, either whether it's a different session or here, we'll discuss, do we want to put 50,000 in for one and 100 for another, or do we want to put 10 and 10, or whatever the numbers are?
Well, seeing how we really don't have any intel on how and what, why don't you throw some numbers out there and we'll call it a budget?
I was gonna suggest 15 and 15, just to put a placeholder.
With
in.
commas or without? 15,000 or
Yeah.
1,500?
15,000.
Okay.
Yeah, and I mean, my only thought on the thing is I think we may end up using the broker more than we use the legal, but it's hard to say.
Yeah, but your broker isn't he gonna take, he's gonna take a commission, so there's really no budget there.
Yeah, but I think there was some
There's
fees in
consulting
there
fees.
for, like, when he's consulting and stuff like that, yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
I mean, I'm okay with 15 and 15. My only comment was it might be 20 and 15, I don't know.
Well, let's hope that the brokers do their job and we can do as little of it as their job.
Yeah. No,
That's what we're hiring them for.
But I mean, obviously, part of
Well,
the.
let's save that
Yeah.
discussion for when we kick back to that. That
Okay.
sound good to you? Because we gotta
Sure.
we gotta kick 6, 7, and 8, and that's all about those guys.
Yep.
Okay. So, we wanna pick
So
up
do you
a
want to
budget?
do 15 and 15 for the budget next year? What I'm looking for today is requests for the 2025 budget. That way we can have either a follow-up discussion in July, we can set up a budget work session. So with the preliminary budget needed in September for the regular council, we need to have some direction of what the EDA wants to do in 25 and how many dollars that's going to take. That way the council can decide if they want to use up previous funds, which is the 675,000 that I just explained in the financial update for our today, or if we want to have it with new budget dollars, as in levying for new dollars to be able to provide with whatever the plan would be for in the future. So
Dave, what's your thought on this?
Depends.
You're kinda like the budget guy.
Well, I don't have a better guess than anybody else on how much we're gonna use those services, but I think we've gotta have a number in there. And in the larger piece of that, I think that the operating budget should come out of levy dollars, not money that's, as I understand it, been put away for purchases and doing other business for the EDA. So operating expenses, we should be budgeting for, have a number, and that's what we should ask for a levy.
Do you agree with Sean's assessment to 15-15?
I think it's a place to start, sure.
Okay.
What about 20 and 20? Would that be a more comfortable number? Yet not,
Yeah, I think
not
so.
crazy,
Okay.
but
So we need a
Sure.
motion to carry 2020?
I'll
Yep.
make the motion.
Any other items you want to add to the budget? So 20,000 is fine. It's whatever number it is. It is.
For both of those.
Yep. It sounds like general discussion says 20 and 20 sounds like a good number to both of us. Is there anything else we want to look at for the budget for 2025?
what about anything with, I don't know if we do anything with marketing materials?
Would that be considered 20?
No, because that's legal and broker.
Correct. Yeah.
So, I don't know.
I think the other expenses that we've had, we've got the 2,500 for
Elevate Hennepin.
Elevate Hennepin. That's an annual expense that should be in
Yeah, that should be
the
in
operating budget. Sorry about that.
Zach, just from a process perspective, we've got to submit this to the council. Do we have a
Correct.
date at which we need to submit it? I'm just wondering if we need a work session.
Earlier the better, only because we have preliminary numbers coming in from operations and then long-term plans. So we're right now currently in discussion with the council from a perspective of staff and council as we went through the operations budget at the last meeting. The first meeting in July, we will go through the long-term plan budget, which are more capital items. So rough time frame is now, and over the next 2 months is fine too. Sometime before August would be good, really.
I'm just wondering, if we want to have a more thoughtful process on, is there any, what was your question, is there anything else? Well,
Correct.
I think everyone's kind of like, I'm not sure yet, but, so that's my only input. If you want to go ahead and put in the 20 and 20 and then the stuff for Elevate Hennepin and call that's,
We can have an expanded discussion in July if you want to do that. I don't know if we have a ton of things on the July meeting. I'm
what
not
do you
sure.
want to do?
I think we got a motion on the floor ready to move forward with the 2020.
Okay.
And if we have to change it, then we'll address it.
Okay. Can we change it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Up until
Up
September
until-
you can.
Okay.
Correct, yep.
Okay. Well, good. Then
Okay.
let's do that.
Can always go down, can't go up.
After
That works.
September.
That's after September.
After September, okay.
I don't know what that total is, but
45, 40.
62.5.
I mean, like for the yearly party.
So you got 20,000 for broker, 20,000 for legal. What else you got there, Sean?
Elevate Hennepin is 2,500.
2,500, that's correct.
Marketing or whatever we want to do with, 5,000.
Okay.
And then can we have a miscellaneous item?
Just throw a total of 50.
15,000?
Okay.
What do you think?
Yeah, that works.
At least
I'm
that's
just
it.
making notes here. Okay, and then minutes.
62.5.
Okay,
20, 40, 60.
62.5.
62.5.
yep. Okay.
Okay, so we're gonna change it from 2020 to 62.5 total. It'll be a breakdown on our minutes.
Yep.
We had a primary, we had a motion to approve. Who did the first one? Who did the?
I made a motion originally.
And do we have a second to approve this?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Was that an aye or a?
I'm fine with it.
Okay. So unanimously.
Okay.
So that clear up our number 9?
Clear for number 9, yep. Like I said, so we'll bring that back we'll bring it to the council for items, and if they have any items that come back to us, we'll bring it back to the EDA.
So let's bounce back to 6. Discussion of AIG contract for commercial broker services. Zach and I has had a wonderful meeting with these people. I was quite enamored by the knowledge in which they've sent. We've sat down and talked for, hour 10? And listened to these guys pull up a hell of a presentation. And, yeah, kind of a good group. So, did you look at your packet, the client representation agreement, and there's a couple of questions I had there. Did you all read any of this by chance?
Yes.
The questions that we had?
Yeah.
So, if you have an issue in there and you want to circle something, we can turn these into Zach so that we can turn these over to legal, which we got to now discuss for legal services in number 8. That's kind of how they're all tied together. We want them to check this, is that correct?
That's correct, yep. So the reason why it's a discussion and not an approval of the contract is right now, currently the council needs to make a decision on what the EDA future looks like, which is related to the memo received from Amy Schmidt about a month ago or so, somewhere in there, related to how the EDA was set up and how it was adjusted in 2014 and what the bylaws look like and so on and so forth. So that is why you're not seeing an approval today on the agenda. You're looking at a discussion to make sure that we're all set to go and ready to go. The council needs to make a decision on what the EDA looks like in the future, and then when approval can happen if the EDA continues or operates the same or adjusts. I don't know any more information than anybody else does, so the council needs to make a decision, and that's why the discussion is on here today versus an approval of those contracts. So what I'm looking today is put some eyes on it. If we have any adjustments or amendments we want to make to the contract, we can provide them back to the contractor, which would be IAG in this case, or Levander in the legal services agreement. And then we can approve those at a future meeting once the council makes a decision. So it'll either be on the next meeting, June 25th, or it'll be July 9th, which will either way before the next EDA meeting, they'll make a decision on things.
I'm a little confused. So Amy is the legal
Amy
counsel for
The city council, correct.
She brought up the issue of how the EDA was originally formed and that
Correct.
needed to be fixed. So
That's correct.
council has to deal with that.
You got it.
She also wrote, did she not, about the kind of some of the issues relative to us having our own legal counsel? Or did I misunderstand that?
I think she provided a memo on that as well, possibly. That was last week or a week and a half ago.
Okay.
I'm not exactly sure when that was. Her major concern again is how it was set up and how the EDA is set up, not so much that the legal of that the EDA can't have their own legal, because they most certainly can. It's more or less, I think it's around how the EDA operates, how the EDA works, how the city views the EDA, how the EDA views the city, so on and so forth, back and forth.
What I got out of it primarily was the original enabling resolution
Yes.
was done correctly, but then there were changes made in 15 and 17 and maybe past that in terms of number of members and the EDA not being the council, because that's how it was set up originally, that those things were passed on voice votes and they need to be done by resolution. And so the paperwork wasn't right. And so this is looping back to that to say, you know, we've got to approve it in the right way so that it's legal and nobody can come back and say, we did something as a body, as the EDA, and we don't officially exist as we're supposed to. And so I see it more as cleanup, but, you know, it certainly opens the opportunity for others to weigh in on how they would like to see the EDA structured differently, and whether we go down that path or not, I don't know. But what we need to do at a minimum is approve those previous resolutions on paper, essentially.
Correct. So that's why it's discussion and not approval of the contract, which was discussed at the last meeting that we do an approval, but based on legals from the city's perspective, we can't approve a contract if this body doesn't technically really exist as it sits today.
So what is the timeline for council to,
So the council will either review it on the 25th or the 9th, and the reason why I say one of the two is because the 25th is jam-packed full of planning items, and those have to go to those planning items based on our 60 and 120-day rules set up by the state. We have to give an opinion based on those, or they automatically get approved and go through. So because of those timelines, we have to have those on the 25th. At the current moment, I'm not sure how long the 25th is going to be. Based on the last planning commission meeting, that went to 11:45. That started at 6 and not 6:30. So I'm hoping it's not that long. But again, there has to be discussion at the council level for that. So I'm not sure how long the council wants to be here for on a Tuesday evening.
so is either
So-
June, the 25th?
25th or July 9th. Either one of those will be before the next EDA meeting that we have for this body. So, like I said, hopefully the direction has been given from the council. And as long as the council has given direction, it may not have an approved item for or against, but we could at least have approvals and such, or denials, or whatever we need to at the following EDA meeting based on the discussion that happened at council.
And so going back to last EDA meeting,
Yes.
when we approved the broker and
RFP, yep.
we didn't really, you're saying we didn't really approve them.
Correct. You
Because-
selected the request for proposals of who you'd like to work with.
Right.
You did not approve an official contract with them.
Right.
That's
And so we can't approve the contracts with them until
You got
the
it.
city council thing's resolved.
You got it. And that's why discussion is here, and it's not approval, which I mentioned last meeting. It says discuss, and, you know, set priorities or discussion or whatever around those items. That way, we can get everything ready to go, so that whatever the council makes a decision on, we can make a decision on after that. It's just confusing as mud, and I get it, but I'm trying to lay it out as best as possible.
So I don't, so the question is what would we actually discuss? I mean, I had originally on the broker thing, I think I requested a agenda item to talk about, you know, what are the priorities for the broker in terms
I would
of
agree.
like types of businesses and that kind of stuff, because I think we need to do that
Mhm.
at some point. But that may be too early if,
Well, we kind of had that.
well, we did at one time, but I don't think.
Not with everybody.
Not with everybody, and I think the thing is that, you know, we had that discussion, I don't know, a year ago about, you know, are there other types of business other than, you know, 20 million feet of warehouse space, you know, that we're looking to put into the city? And should this broker be targeted at those kinds of businesses or whatever kinds of businesses we decide? But maybe that discussion's too early, considering where we're at.
I think you could have the discussion. I don't think it's going to hurt anything. Like I said, that's why one item is the contract. The next item is the priorities for what you'd like to see them to do. That
Yeah.
way we have some set priorities of what they're looking at doing once they have an approved contract, if that comes to fruition.
Our pre-meeting was pretty, listened to a lot what they had to say. And we pulled them up on the map and they looked at everything and they says, okay, here's your general scope of area and in their expertise, what do they see fits there. So we.
That was the pre-meeting with you and Zach
Yeah.
and, okay. Well,
So-
the rest of us don't know anything
Yep.
about that.
And when we have that conversation, we'll make sure that they come in front of us, tell everybody here what their official plan is, but we gotta get them signed on this. So we really need to get through council first.
Yeah, and I'm fine with that if the timing is different. I mean, I only put it on there because I think
You
it's an
bet.
important priority, or important
You bet.
thing that we need to do. If we're gonna have a broker,
Representing us.
let's direct them to what we want. And we had this discussion some time ago about, can we focus on businesses that will bring higher salaried people versus a massive warehouse that has 10 people working in it,
And they did cover that, yes.
so. Okay. Well, I'm okay to take that off of the agenda and put it for a later time, particularly if this group can come in and present to us. But I think we should have our discussion about priorities prior to them presenting to us so we can give them direction.
Yeah. Yep, I agree with that.
Yeah, I think this meeting is the proper meeting to have that discussion at, so that's why I think I put it on there, because it's important for us to have those priorities set before they come in and present to us. That way you guys are giving them direction based on, they can show all kinds of good things, which is great, but if that's not what we're looking for as the EDA, that's gonna be really hard for us to direct them to what you're looking for. Versus if you have that during the time that they're presenting, it's going to be hard for you to say, well, this is what we
No,
want when the whole EDA is not on the same page.
I think we have to have it prior to that.
Yep.
And I don't know if that's today or what, but
Well, let's take a couple minutes and run with it. What do you want to see there?
well, I would like to, I think, in my opinion, when we're looking at economic development, we talked about this, the number of jobs that we get when we put in a 6 million square foot warehouse versus say an office building that houses 400 people that have $100,000+ salaries is a big difference, is a huge difference. And I'm not going for all office buildings, but I think we need, I mentioned, I think during our discussion as an example, like Research Triangle Park in Raleigh, North Carolina, you've got some, significant companies that have research facilities that make, that have 500-600 scientists in a building that are making $150,000-$200,000 a year, and so that's all about tax base and, people in the community spending money. So I think those types of businesses are things we should be looking for.
So high-tech assembly, high-tech.
Well, I think office buildings, high-tech is definitely can be part of that. I mean, I don't think it has to be limited to that. I also see what I would call limited retail. I mean, I think we discussed, we're probably not going to be a Maple Grove. We don't want to be a Maple Grove, but we've got to have some retail in the city, whether that's coffee shops or maybe some fast food places or restaurants or whatever. I mean, as you know, there's very few in the city right now. I mean, there's a couple, but, obviously there's something in front of us right now here, but to me, those are the types of businesses we should be looking for. I mean, automotive shops,
Whoa.
whatever.
What's wrong with you?
But, that's my input. I guess I'd like to hear what other people think.
Come on, go for it.
Kind of agree with them. Like to see some fast food, restaurants, retail.
RTL.
We have enough warehouses, in my opinion.
Okay. Maybe another Caterpillar dealer. Wait, we're doing autos. Might as well do cat. So retail, office.
So when you say fast food one, are you looking for like McDonald's and Arby's, or are you looking for more restaurants for people to sit down for lunch, like an Applebee's or a Chili's. I'm just trying to get a general example of what you mean by fast food.
I'm open to either or, Zach.
Okay.
Either or.
And I think depending on location, you could have either or, you know.
Right.
But
Anything else, man? Scott, say it.
I'll kudo to what's been said.
All right.
I agree as well. I think this plan we haven't even talked about yet is pretty cool. It has a mixture of everything that you guys have talked about that you wanted. It is here. So I think it's a great idea. I think having this retail and restaurants, that's what's gonna draw people to Dayton.
yeah.
I mean, most people don't come to Dayton to drive around and look at warehouses. So,
Yeah.
something, a purpose for them to come here, right? To drive a
Destination.
Yeah, a destination.
Anything else?
No,
And for you those who don't know, that Sean is running for city council, has got his hat in the ring.
I saw that.
So
Congratulations.
we're,
Yeah, congrats, good for you.
well, thank you.
There's a lot of people running that. It's
Super Dave, talk to me.
Well, I think the discussion is good. I think for me, I think the next step then is to take those kind of ideas and look at the comp plan and look at what's zoned for what, and
Yeah.
see where we should be, well, first of all, where is it planned for now that we expect retail and mixed use kind of stuff, like fast food or, the Medtronic or Boston Scientific, I guess they're not around anymore, but, whoever bought them, Abbott, that kind of medical device industry, that's something I've always kind of hoped for Dayton. We chose a truck stop instead, but, that's the kind of zoning that we got to look at within that comp plan. And so I think we should be taking these ideas and saying what could go where, and then target that. And then maybe that plays into the discussion with the broker. How do we get some of those things to come together, buyers and sellers to.
Can we get a snippet of the comp plan for this section, Zach?
Yep.
Send all.
Yep.
So if we were to explore the last comp plan and maybe look at a future comp plan or whatever we're
Well,
doing.
the comp plan is the future plan.
Okay.
It's up for another look in 26 and then for 30, because we're on a 2040 comp plan. We'd be developing the 2050 comp plan in a couple of years. So if there's things that look way out of whack now's the time to start talking about them for getting them changed or corrected.
Times have changed, plans
in
have
the next
changed.
comp
So
plan.
the idea, I think what Dave is mentioning is that he'd like to see, okay, we have the current comp plan, here's what we have currently to go off of for the future, but do you see any changes from that could be different spots that you see for perspectives of the items that you guys have mentioned, high-paying jobs, medical device, industry, tech, research, ops building, fast food? Do you see any other places for those that aren't currently on that 2040 comp plan, that when we're looking for adjustments, the 2050 comp plan, we can take those into consideration? So.
The whole city center idea plan is not even a mile away from here. And whether that happens or not happens, I mean, my opinion, it's 20 years out, but that's also something to keep in mind.
Well, I think it would be good once that gets more finalized for that to be presented here, because there's a fair amount of retail envisioned in that
Yep.
city center area, and that's where we should be weighing into what kind of retail and other businesses we'd like to see more specifically than just a zoning that says mixed use or something. So I think the time to be having those discussions is now, and it'd be good, but I think we need a little more background so we don't just pick a spot in a cornfield and say we'd like to see a medical manufacturer here. Let's see what's on the plan now and see how those ideas fit with that.
So let's add to our next agenda, the comp plan. Everybody gets a copy. We'll talk about this section, what we have currently, and if we see any future needs. You guys seen that? And we can recommend that to, is that planning or council at that point?
It would be probably it would probably be both. We're working on a master plan area for basically the area north of 117th to 125th Avenue, focus more in there. And south of Dayton area at the city center, what I would consider the city center area next to French Lake. So that's kind of what the master plan's looking at right now, and if this body sees anything differently, that's always good to have input in. I would agree with Dave as well that this should probably be presented at some point here, once we get kind of closer to get your thoughts down on paper. We've got the planning commission ones, we've got limited council ones, come back to discuss with the EDA of what they'd like to see in that area, but I most certainly could be an item at the next meeting.
Anybody else want to add to that before we move forward? We heard from everybody? Okay.
Yeah, not on that, but back to the agreements. I understand that we're not approving them today, but there was, on page 10 in there was a question for us around dual agency representation, and I think that's something that we need to give direction on, and what that is about is if IAG, they're representing us, but they're also representing the seller. And are we going to look at properties that are in that situation where there's obviously a conflict of interest for the company when they're on both sides of the table? So the question was, do we want to allow that or not? And I think if we do, what kind of safeguards do we want to have in place for us?
Would that only be in situations where we own the property?
Could be either. We could own the property and they could be also, so they're representing us as the seller, but they also bring a buyer to the table, another part of their company or something.
But in most situations, if they're just bringing a buyer to, meaning like trying to find companies to come buy land in Dayton and develop it, then we wouldn't be involved in that really, because we're not the buyer or the seller.
That would not be considered dual agency.
No, that's what I'm trying. I want us to make sure. So it would be when we have Dayton, we own land, and they are bringing someone to us and they're representing that man.
If they're both sides of the fence,
Yeah,
Correct.
they're selling and they're representing us.
yeah.
And they're buyers buying from their seller. So they're
Yeah, I was just trying to figure out how many situations we have. I mean, it's not like we own a shit ton of land.
if these guys are that big and they got a lot of people in there, it's going to be a thing.
Yeah, but we have to own the land.
It certainly
first.
can happen, yeah. Absolutely.
I mean, we got to own the land before it becomes an issue. Is my point.
And
Correct.
I'm a licensed agent, so I completely understand dual agency, and it does happen quite a bit. And there's processes and procedures in place that the brokers have to follow as far as confidentiality. But it's just like with Edina Realty. I mean, Edina Realty is so big. Odds are there's going to be 2 Edina Realty brokers working on the same transaction. And there also is IGA is so big.
Yeah, IAG is not that big.
Okay.
So I did talk to them a little bit, and they're a very local or very homegrown area. They're not a national. They're not a CBRE type. They do a lot of business in Minnesota, most certainly, but they aren't as large as we are thinking they are. If that makes sense.
The fees that we would pay out are the same if it's a dual agency or if it's not. So, I mean, when you sign a listing agreement, you determine what your fees are going to be. Whether all those fees go to the IGA or they're split between 2 brokers. It all depends on who the other broker is. So, again, being through it enough times, I'm not overly concerned with dual agency.
No,
Well-
I think it might limit us if we don't allow it.
Yeah.
To an opportunity. I think we just got to be
Diligent.
mindful that that our interest is protected in that situation.
So if we nod our head to number 1, number 3 and number 6 also come into this so that we can have some way of auditing and trailing if something happens. So let's say we get a dual agency, they have the buyer, we're the seller, they're the guys running it, but we got to make sure that we have some hold harmless for us as a group, and we got to make sure that their data practices are also covered. So I don't know if that falls underneath,
Which email is that, Tim? You sent out 2 emails. and
I sent,
did
this
both
is
of them.
the one with the 4:08 PM.
Okay.
Numbers 1, 3, and 6 kind of work together. This is just what I've noticed when I was looking through the contract, so I wanted to bring it out there.
Okay.
So if they've got some kind of a AI policy, a policy for, so if, we want to make sure that their are up to speed, especially if something that we see smells different. What do you think about that? So that would also fall under the Data Practices Act, make sure they're obligated in accordance with all Minnesota government practices and data laws. So that's kind of a thing. Number 6 and number 1 are kind of tied together pretty tight. Did you see that?
Mm-hmm.
You agree?
I do, I was a little bit confused because you had 2 emails in there.
Yep.
And it seemed like a couple of points, and I didn't write them down, but was the agreement that we saw in the packet, was that updated after
No.
Tim's? So,
Nope.
okay.
We,
'Cause it
we,
seemed
yeah,
like
we
a
got
couple of the
theirs.
things were covered already that you asked about in your.
They're aware of these. We did not talk about implementing anything. That's what we were here for.
The contract was the contract received by AIG, and then your comments, Tim, were from the contract that were sent out to everybody from me.
So what you're seeing is raw data.
Correct. Yeah.
Nothing's been polished.
No.
Right, we were all 7 of us are going
Yep.
to do this.
Yep.
Did that make sense?
I understand it now.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I just wasn't clear on a couple of your points where it seemed like they were covered in the contract, so that's why I was wondering if they'd already been addressed or if you're just pointing them out for discussion.
So I had redundancies.
Seemed like it.
Yeah, okay. Well, these are just the things that kind of stuck out to me. No rhyme or reason, just what it was. Anybody else want to share any of these points? Quantification, entanglement into a third world.
So we are okay with dual agency, that's what I heard, as a general.
I'm just checking to see if you're awake, Dad.
I think it's gonna happen. You just make sure you got safeguards in it.
Okay.
Yeah, it was, I wasn't for or against it, it was just a question.
I just want to make sure
that's being asked.
we can not allow it as part of the contract. We could say we don't want to have dual agency if we don't want it. That's why I'm asking the question to clarify.
Yeah, well, to Sean's point, I mean, like residential real estate, it happens every day. So it's not like, oh, we're into some weird water here with this idea. We just need to be conscious of it and make sure that they're doing their job for us.
I'm not afraid of it. I mean, what he discussed about that dual agency, and it comes up a lot for him in the meeting, is that, we just got to make sure that they're not under the fence talking to each other and doing stuff. And by some of the things we put out there, we're going to know if something happens, just by paying attention to the details. So, personally, I'm in favor of doing it, but you guys make the call. Someone's got to make a motion to accept the dual agency. Is that what we're
I'm
doing?
okay with dual agency.
Yeah, I just need to have a general consensus, and it sounds like we have a
Yeah.
general consensus amongst
Yeah.
at least majority of the council, or the EDA meeting, sorry.
That's where you want to go with that,
Yeah.
Dave?
Yeah, well, we needed to check one of those boxes. And so
Yep,
that's why-
correct.
All right. Anything else that trips anybody's trigger here?
The other one for me was around the the addendum A, starting on page 12. And I don't remember us talking about doing project management with them, but that's what that's all about. And I'm not opposed to it, I'm just wondering why we need to sign an agreement when we don't have a project.
You said data practices 12?
Addendum A.
Remember what
It's on
page that was?
page 12.
Page 12, he's
Oh, that one.
So that next 5 or 6 pages of the agreement, so it's really written like a separate agreement. And it,
13, it's number 13 on this, isn't it? Broker shall be deemed as an independent contractor, is that what you said?
no, Zach's got it up on the board there.
Page 12.
And it is separate, so we can accept this and say, no, we don't need to accept
Correct.
Yeah. I think they were just putting it in there to let you know if you want project management, this is what it's gonna be.
Yeah, and
Yep.
I didn't think that their fees were not great for us, but they weren't, way out in left field, I didn't think. But I just couldn't I guess, I'm not sure why we need that at this point when we don't have a project.
Yeah, to me, it's more like their buyer, once their buyer takes it, it's their project, they can have it. I mean, you're gone,
I don't think
you've
we-
already sold it, so.
This would
I don't
come into
think we'd
play
be
if we
involved
were-
in that
We have
unless-
city land and we wanted to develop on it.
Right.
And so we're doing, well, maybe redeveloping something, and the city was gonna take the lead on it, and so we would want some expertise, because we're not gonna be doing the day-to-day, when are the contractors showing up, who's got their stuff on order, what are the problems with lead time, and all the things that come into a project. We would want something like this. It just seems premature to me to have it when we don't have a project.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which references my number 7 on the 408 one. Okay. I seen it, but I was like, what does that mean to us?
Yeah, so essentially, it would be some communities have done this in the past where they have built a what I will call like an office kind of building that they separate out into individual locations, so similar to like a strip mall type, and then they'll rent them out to individual businesses and provide it as a rental income for the city. So they'll build the building, the city will own the land, they'll build the building as in construction management, and then they will rent those facilities out to businesses to be able to utilize those, whether they need 2,000 square feet or 5,000 square feet or whatever. Common in bigger cities. I know Northfield has one. I know, I think New Hope has one. So larger cities have those if they want to do that. And the EDA typically is the one who handles it. That's why it's in
Right.
here. It's simply an economic development item.
I mean, in this case, we could either say, A, we're not ready for this, or B, even if you sign it, if you don't do anything, it doesn't mean anything, really. It just is giving you what the rates are.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, to me, it's kind of like you sign it and it's like, okay, well, if we ever do decide to do project management, this is the deal. If we don't, it doesn't matter anyway.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I mean, I'm good either way. I don't think it makes a whole lot of difference. And I don't foresee on the near horizon that we're going to be doing anything, but potentially longer term.
You want it as a toolbox, tool in our toolbox, right?
Well, I think it could come into play. I just don't think we need it at this point. It's good information about what they can do and what they would charge us for it. I don't know, if we were doing a $5 million project of some kind, and the EDA, it was under the EDA to put the thing together, we would need a construction manager, an owner's rep, in a situation like this, to carry the water for us and to, make decisions based on our input that they deliver to the contractors that are actually building the thing.
Do you want to treat this as separate then?
Yes. And
So let's
I
split
don't
that out
see
for
the
a
need.
contract.
I don't see the need to do it.
Well, it already is split out. This
It
addendum
is,
A, so we
yeah.
just don't sign addendum
So,
A.
yeah.
Right, because it's
Okay.
just got a separate signature page.
Make
so-
sure they are aware of this.
You do not want, it sounds like the EDA is not wanted addendum A from, I've heard from 2, 3,
Not yet.
yeah, I'm not saying it's never, but for now it's no.
Yeah, and if it was a big project, to me, that's, this owner's management, owner representation and construction management kind of stuff is almost its own RFP specific to that project. I mean, we do that with Jason and Stantec all the time, a road project. There's the deal for them to do the design, and then in the bid documents, it goes out for bid. We award the bid to somebody, but then separately, we also sign an agreement with Stantec to manage the project for us, to get out and make sure the road's in the right place and all the details that go into that. But it's per project, it's not a standing agreement
A
that
blanket.
Stantec will do all of our civil engineering projects. We do them as one-offs, and that's why this seemed premature to me. It might be the right way to go. I'm not weighing in on that at all. I'm just saying, I don't know. We don't have a project, so why do we need this agreement?
Well, if we get to that point, we'll revisit this?
Yeah.
Okay. Make sense, everybody? All right, anything else? Okay, moving on. Discussion Levander Legal Services Agreement. So we can't do that until we get our,
Yeah, was there any items on there? I know the only item that you mentioned, Chair, is that the mayor's name's listed on there. We'll get that adjusted. That's amended
Okay.
on that agreement. But other than that, I just want to make sure we have a discussion, and if we need any changes, we can make them.
okay.
Do we have any other discussion on anything on that? From the
Kind of got to wait until we see where
Well,
council
I
lands
think
us.
I want to make sure that we have the legal agreement in place that you want to see before. That way, it's all ready to go for you guys, just like the broker one is. That's what I'm looking for. Make sure I don't want to make any adjustments, any amendments, anything else to the contract.
I didn't say anything stuck out on us because they're the guys supposed to be representing us as a city.
It's a very generic contract. I mean, it's
Yeah.
pretty cut and dry. There's not a whole lot of major items in here besides here's the cost and here's what it is. But
So no discussion on that? Call it a day on that?
It's good.
yeah, we'll get that changed so it's not mayor. It'll say
Yeah.
EDA chair. That way you can sign it again, Tim. I know you're big into signing. So.
He's like that, yeah.
Haba, haba, haba. Drive fast, take chances, right?
You got it.
Okay.
You just seen that head get a little bigger,
I know.
right?
I know. Puffed up a little bit.
Come on, man. All right, moving on. So we see nothing with that, so we'll just call that good.
Yep.
Discussion for July meeting.
Yeah, correct. So I am on vacation the next July meeting, July 18th. July 16th is the next EDA meeting. I will be on vacation that week. Would we
23rd?
like to move it to the next week? Do we want to keep it a Tuesday? Do you not want me here, which is fine too?
Because I'd prefer that.
You want to move it to the 23rd, just take the next one? That work for anybody?
I'm gonna be on my bicycle. I believe, yes.
Move to the 9th? That'll give council main time to go through that.
So 9th, if you do it on the 9th, you will not have the information from council to make a decision
then we
on
gotta
if
do
it's on July 9th, because their meeting is in the
Yeah,
evening. Yours would be-
yeah, right.
Let's do 23rd.
It doesn't have to be Tuesday, it could be any
Doesn't,
day.
it can be any day.
Pick any day.
Could be 26.
Tuesday's great too. Doesn't matter to me, but.
If you wanted to do it the week before, you gotta do it on a Monday. So that it,
Well, you have
no,
to
no,
do it-
no, you'd have to do it Wednesday. You'd have to do it
Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Well,
Tuesday.
Wednesday's be a really quick turnaround, but we can do it. 11th and 12th would probably be what I would suggest if we did it that same week. Otherwise, we could do it any day this week, the 22nd and 26th.
When
You
you
would
leave
see the
it.
packet, if you did it this time, you'd see the packet on the 12th. If you did it the 11th or 12th, which is fine too, I'd have to put the packet together sometime the week before that, and I'll do my best to preemptively.
Can we still do it on the 16th?
You can still do the 16th. That'll just be John running the meeting, not me. Which is fine too.
Are you guys opposed to that?
Just louder.
Are you opposed to that? Just to keep it in,
Zach replaced.
just for the
Kind of got
day?
momentum with Zach, and we kind of got the no of the no.
I'm only gone for one meeting. Doesn't matter. You tell me. That's why I want to discuss it.
I mean,
So
I'd
will-
say
if you
the
leave it where it is, I'm not going to be here, which is fine.
The week of the 22nd, probably. Are you gone that whole week, Dave? Or just the 23rd?
John's not here either.
Chris won't be here on the 16th either. So our AV guy will not be here on the 16th either.
So 23rd.
So
Are
then
you
you
gone
gotta
that whole
go,
week, Dave? The 22nd? Week of the 22nd?
I am. Yep.
We could do it the week of the 29th, too.
Yeah, you can do it the 29th, 30th, 31st too.
I'm okay with that.
go to the 30th.
Yeah,
30th.
30th's fine.
Move to July 30th.
July 30th is what I heard.
Juan,
Yep, that works.
Dave,
Yes.
30th it is.
Okay. Same time, same place.
Same bat time, same bat channel.
Sounds good.
A little before your time.
Yeah.
Batman's been around forever, man.
I know. Just kidding.
How you doing?
I'm just kidding.
Okay, moving on. Staff updates. I'm assuming this is what's in front of us, but before we start to jump into that, I reached out to Buc-ee's. Anybody familiar with the Buc-ee's? Okay.
Gas station?
Yeah, well, it's a
Convenience store.
Convenience store.
Convenience store.
Bucky's?
Bucky's or Chubby?
Yeah. They're a little large
Cubby.
for this site, but yeah.
Bucky, I never heard of them.
Aren't they based up
You
Texas?
might want to Google it. I reached out to their purchasing agents guys. I sent an invitation to come see us, see if we got an area for this far north. They're usually a southern
This would be
state.
really far north for them. Bucky's
Yeah.
Yeah, they
is
seem way.
Georgia, Florida, Texas.
Yeah.
They're in Tennessee, I think. They might
Missouri.
be
Yep.
in Missouri,
Like a-
but they're nothing northern states yet.
They're like a quick trip kind of place.
Competition for Quick
No,
Trip,
so
huh?
they are not a
bigger.
truck stop.
Not
You could call them a quick trip if you called it, but so just for a reference, they have roughly 100 and some pumps at every place that they have. Hundreds of gas pumps, I mean. There's no trucks allowed though, so no
Okay.
18-wheelers or tractors are allowed in the facility. They are specifically only
They
for
like to call themselves a
residential.
convenience store that sells gas.
Correct. Yeah, correct.
And they have a lot of vendors, and it's like a food source. It's like a restaurant. It's like it's
I have been there. It's very
It's
cool.
like a mini Walmart with 300 gas pumps out front.
There's a lot of gas pumps.
there's one or two. So we'll see where that pans out. Just so you a heads up. So if you were to continue on with your, I so rudely interrupted your momentum here because I wanted this out here in case this turns left instead of right. Go ahead.
Cool. Sounds great. All right, so EDA chair and members of the EDA, we are looking at in front of you. Part of the staff and board updates we want to bring to you is part of our DCM Farms development that we are seeing. So this is a concept plan level. We are looking for your feedback on the items related to what you can see in the purple area. It's roughly 13.1 acres of commercial land. This is down right next to Dean's Country Manor as it sits today. You can see Dean's Country Manor in your bottom right corner there. That's what it sits as of today. And like I said, 113th, you can see kind of grayed out right above Dean's Country Manor. 113th Avenue is being proposed to move north and connect up to 114th Avenue, which is just a little farther north, but it's a dead-end street on the other side of Fernbrook. Again, this is right by Sundance Entertainment, and is proposed a small commercial area in this area. Reason being is there's roughly, after all developments and said, around this area we'll have roughly 2,000 homes in this area, with the only ability to get any sort of groceries or quick gets are going to be at Target or anything in Maple Grove. So what the developer is looking to do is possibly bring in some small retail or some smaller types of retail, a convenience type store for people to pick up eggs, milk, lettuce, fresh fruit, whatever, type convenience store, restaurants. Dean's Country Manor obviously will stay there. That is the plan. They are not looking to move that or change that. But bring in some more retail, bring in a coffee or a bank, bring some daycare in. Again, these are all high-level proposed items. We are looking for your feedback on the types of items that are being proposed in the buildings, the general layout, if you'd like to see more or less of something, or you want to see something different than what is not being proposed in this area. Also, from feedback from the Planning Commission, we got mixed reviews from individuals in this area and the homes. Some homes really liked the idea of having this close, and some homes hated the fact that this was that close to their house. So, mixed feedback from residents, and I think the Planning Commission overall too.
What
That's what we're looking for today.
What is this in the comp plan?
So the comp plan is currently zoned for low density residential.
That's what I
So it will take a comp plan amendment to make this happen.
Okay.
How does Dean's Country Manor feel about the other restaurants in the area?
They're okay with it.
Probably bring more business to them.
They're okay with it.
Put a liquor store next to Jack's.
Well, it's Tommy Dean bringing it, so I mean, it's.
The question
family.
Yeah, the
I
developer is Tom Dean.
This
Well, then they would be okay with it.
They're okay with it.
this somewhat
You
relates.
failed to mention that earlier. Okay.
So the point I wanted to make, this somewhat relates to our previous discussion about looking at the comp plan and deciding, like where things can be and where things can't be. to me, the way the comp plan looks right now, it's very defined, like this is mixed use and this isn't. And so when you look at other cities, it seems like you have more of this type of thing that you've got on the table here, where you have it's all residential, and then all of a sudden you have this little island of, I call it small retail,
You would call it neighborhood commercials. What they
yeah,
call it.
neighborhood commercial, whatever you want to call. I guess that's the best name for it. To me, this actually kind of makes some sense because it puts commercial in a good way next to houses, so people don't have to go so far.
You're gonna bring Mohammed to the mountain.
Yeah. So that's something I think, just in our other discussion, when we look at the comp plan, we ought to think about, should we recommend continuing to stay with very defined mixed-use areas or integrate them more into, like this is? I'll leave it at that.
They're on sewer water over there, aren't they?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
correct. Yep.
They got all the houses.
Well,
What do
then,
you-
we're
John-
gonna get in their way.
Since you're here, what do you see in other areas along this line? Because it seems like, to Jack's point, that, when we've had other residential, it's just that. It's a block of land and it's all houses.
Yeah.
Sure.
And we haven't done any of this kind of thing
Right.
integrated into the plan so far.
Well, I'm going to turn around and ask you guys a question of what convenient, I'm going to refer to it as convenience retail, would you rather see in Dayton that you're currently leaving town for?
That'd be
Which
almost
is kind
everything,
of
wouldn't
probably
it?
everything, a little bit of everything.
Well, I think
can
it's,
answer that question.
Yeah.
yeah.
It would almost be everything that they have proposed
Yeah.
here.
Okay.
Coffee shop, a small restaurant to go have lunch. Literally everything that's here is why I drive to Maple Grove.
Okay.
So I'd have to say,
Or
whoever
Rogers.
designed this, either they got extremely lucky, or they really did a lot of research on what.
Well,
What?
we don't have nothing in the city, so you can throw anything on.
You
there.
could
No, but they didn't. They're not proposing to put
Well, daycare, number one, that's a huge
Yeah.
win.
yeah.
A bank, coffee shop,
Yeah.
you got two open retails in the bottom, three.
It is. So, this is a lot of, 13 acres is a lot, and it's probably more retail, well, I'm sure it's more retail than what we have in Dayton. It's not something that could get filled up right away. It would take several years to do it. And with some of the, strip malls or multi-tenant buildings, there's the flexibility of adding stuff over time. So if you think of, in Champlin along 169, where you had the strip mall that was built in, I don't know if it was the 70s or 80s, and then you had a few more that were built in the 90s. A lot of that has changed over time. So I don't know if we would ever see a hardware store here, as an example. But, the restaurants or Dean's Country Matter, and if there's another restaurant, those are going to be kind of the anchors of that commercial area.
Hardware store.
To me, what's really important with this kind of a commercial development is the design, and that it fits with a residential area, that it has that look, that people aren't upset that this eyesore is right in the middle of their neighborhood.
Okay. So
Some
one of
will,
the
but some aren't.
discussions we had at the
Yeah.
planning commission was having architectural standards of having some kind of a theme. And one of the examples that was brought up was a neighborhood commercial development in Stillwater that has sort of a New England theme to it. And they had a Quick Trip that had sort of a flat roof. It was a pitched roof, and everything looked more like a house and less like a commercial building. I don't know. The planning commission was a big, long meeting that ran late, so we didn't have a lot of in-depth discussions there. But is that something that the community would support? So these are more restrictive regulations where, like, if you're going to build a building here, it has to follow these architectural guidelines, whatever they are.
I think in residential areas where you're right in the middle of all these houses, I think yes. In areas where that's not the case, then I wouldn't put those restrictions on the business because, that kind of, we don't want to be too
I
restrictive.
certainly see a hardware store, absolutely. Gen Y's got to do something once in a while, right? Pick up her wrench and do something.
I mean, this might not be the right term, but I call it like the hometown feel. Like, right, we don't want big steel buildings with neon lights all over them, right? We want something that, like you said, kind of fits the area and fits the theme of Dayton. And I think it would be great.
Okay.
So to his question, anybody want to see anything else besides what's on here? Is that where you're going?
Yeah, so, yeah, we'd like to see, do you want to think,
So-
anything else? Do you want to change anything? And then it sounds like you guys would be okay with architectural standards in this area to keep it that hometown type feel.
Well, I'd certainly add the hardware store. I get that. Straighten these roads out, because if you've ever been to the, what is that place over where you live?
The core.
Corbin's.
Oh, Coburn's?
Yeah, you know where Corbin's is? You're parking that parking lot? They screwed that up so bad, it's incredible. You can't even get anything in and out of there anymore. So I would say be a little more conscious of where you're putting roads.
Sure. Okay.
Straighten it out. We don't need flowing flow that you gotta flow around, and obviously none of them drive big trucks. Just for instance,
There's 3 open retail?
3.
Yeah, those would be like, for example, a Great Club, Subway, karate, that kind of items that would be smaller businesses.
What's this one over, it's like Daily CM or something? I
It's
can't.
a country manor.
Down right, that's Dean's.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
Dean's.
Dean's
Oh,
Country.
okay.
That's Dean's Country Manor.
Gotcha.
Dean's will
Isn't
stay
the
with
church?
us.
Yep.
No, the church is further up the street.
Picture, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we do have a church, yes, the
on
church
the
is
other side.
farther to the south, but we do have also a church that's looking for land in Dayton.
Okay.
I personally am not a fan of the whole idea here. Only because, in my opinion, and again, it's just an idea, the city center is less than a mile away from here. And if you're featuring the city center, why do you want a whole bunch of little pockets? I'm definitely not a fan of the gas station right there, for sure. The residents that are currently there don't want it there. That's just me,
Where's the gas station?
right there.
North of the
Convenience,
pond.
right there, right north of the pond.
Yeah, it's convenience store, yep. Though, when Tom says convenience store, gas station, he's not looking at a Holiday. He'd be looking more towards a Bill's Superette, which would be much more grocery store type than it would be gas station type, and it would be closed at night and not running 24/7 or whatever else. He's looking more for having that convenience store type. That's why he named it a convenience store, not a gas station, because it would sell gas, but it's more for picking up your milk, your eggs, your lettuce, your meat, your whatever.
You make a good point that in addition to the design discussion we had, I think hours of operation, when you're in a residential area, have to be considered. You don't want a 24-hour neon lights.
Yeah.
We're a car wash with big fans.
To Scott's point, I mean, to me, that's a bigger discussion is like, are you, from a city perspective, do you want a city center where everything you need to get, coffee shop, whatever, is all in one spot in Dayton? Or do you want more distributed, availability where it's not just like one big area that's all, you know what I'm saying? And to me,
Malls are
I'm,
dying. Big malls are
Well,
dying.
more, what's the timeline of
Yeah, the other
this
one.
project and city
Oh,
center?
the city center is probably realistically 15, 20 years out.
Well, then,
Where
yeah.
this probably happens within the next 5.
I mean,
and do
3
you
to
have,
5.
do you
Yeah.
have the capacity for both? I don't know how big the city center is gonna be, but
It is. and
You
what it
gotta
might-
get a developer first.
if.
What it might be is
Yeah.
that there's some flex space on this plan where it might be retail and maybe it's an assisted living center instead. Or, something else that you take one use and plug it in and it'll fit here, if it's not retail.
So the direction is, we don't see a problem with this?
This is just general feedback, yep. So
Yeah.
this is concept plan level, this is what we needed, we need to see raw feedback, and we can provide that to the developer, so they know what they're coming back with. This is not a preliminary plat, this isn't something that's gonna get approved and that's gonna go forward.
I'll cast my gig here. I'm okay with this.
I'm okay with moving to the next step.
Because we're talking 15, 20 years out on a maybe. when,
I
when
mean-
these houses need service now.
I'd be in favor based on the comments that we've made.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, I think generally,
Yep.
I'm good with it. I think what that mix is, I'd love to have a hardware store 5 minutes away from me too. But, is the hardware store interested when Home Depot is 2 miles away from
Right.
here? Can they survive in that?
Yeah,
in that
exactly.
kind of
Anybody can get
environment?
anything in Dayton if you drive 10 minutes.
Yes.
Yeah,
So
you can't
I don't
go
know
to
if that
We're
works
just
or
about
not.
getting
but
people
that's-
to come to Dayton.
Yeah.
That's what we're trying to do here. It's not us.
No, I know.
I mean, part of it is, we don't want people to leave Dayton, but we want Maple Grove and Osseo, and we want them to come out to us,
Well,
right?
and to me, I think when you think about, discussion, you're never gonna be a Maple Grove with all this huge retail all in one area. So distributing some retail around the city so that there are, you can get a coffee or whatever within a couple miles of your house seems to make sense to me. But, and it keeps with the theme of kind of the rural feel that the whole, everybody wants. So,
So with your caveats then.
yeah, that's it.
Sound good?
Yep.
Okay.
Thank you.
Moving on to 11, 12.
Any other items? Yeah, so that's our update from staff level. Other than that, we'll look for the board if you have any updates for the board.
Area plan, please, or a concept plan, so we can look at the other places.
What do you mean?
Send us that.
Concept
Comp
plan?
plan.
Oh, comp plan, that'll be for the next meeting, yep, I'll send that on the next meeting. For the next meeting.
Anything else? Motion to adjourn?
Any other updates?
Second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Or who motioned, Dave? Who motioned?
I did, I don't know if I was first.
One was second?
Jack.
Yeah.
Jack.
Okay, that concludes. Thanks.